I welcome you all for today's session. Our today's session is based on Usaid, an international organization. Usaid stands for United States Agency for International Development. This is one of the developmental agency I can say, those who are working around the world. I want to share a brief history of USA. The concept of development basically appeared after the World War II, 1945. Whole world had a tough time, and during that time so many organizations came up, and USAID is a result of the war, I can say. What happened after World War II? George C. Marshall, Secretary of the State, he rendered help to UK because UK also suffered a lot because of the war, and his program later termed as Marshall Plan. And in 1950, the 4-point program started with two goals. One is creating markets in US to reduce poverty and to increase production in developing countries. Second one, diminishing the threat of communism by helping countries prosper under capitalism. Then 1950 to 1961 is a very crucial period because that time that Marshall Plan interlinked with different organizations like Mutual Security Agency, Foreign Operations Administration, International Cooperation Administration, etc. 1961 is a milestone for USAID because in 1961, President Kennedy signed the Foreign Assistance Act into law and created USAID by an executive order. As a result, on 3rd November 1961, USAID set up with the spirit of progress and innovation. So this is all about a brief history. That mission and core values. So mission statement I divided into two segments. So first one, promote and demonstrate democratic values abroad and advance a free, peaceful and prosperous world. Then disaster assistance through partnerships and investment that save lives, reduce poverty, strengthening democratic governance, help people on humanitarian ground, and progress beyond existence. Core values. See, all organizations have their own values, and USAID also having their values, and their values includes passion for mission, excellence, integrity, respect, empowerment, inclusion, and commitment for learning. Certain key objectives of USAID are to help partners to become self-reliant, to reduce conflict, prevention of pandemic diseases. Now we have COVID-19 and US will definitely work, and they initiated some activities too. Then fight against violence, instability and crimes, and to assist help on humanitarian crisis out of disaster around the globe. Activities. They have several activities. Some of the key activities I noticed and I want to discuss. First one is food security. Food security means having at all times both physical and economic access to sufficient food to meet dietary needs for a productive and healthy life. A family is food secure when its members do not live in hunger or fear of hunger. Food insecurity is often rooted in poverty and has long-term impact on the ability of families, communities, and countries to develop and prosper. Prolonged undernourishment stunts growth, slows cognitive development, and increases susceptibility to illness. Today, more than 800 million people across the globe go to bed hungry every night. Most of them smallholders, farmers who depend on agriculture to make a living and feed their families. So, to improve their condition, Usaid initiated some activities, some work, and food security program has launched. So, what are the coverage? Leading America's Feed the Future initiative to strengthen agriculture-led growth, nutrition, and resilience in collaboration with multiple US government agencies and departments, the private sector, civil society, researchers and universities, and partner governments. Then providing emergency food assistance so vulnerable populations and malnourished can survive and bounce back in times of crisis. Next one is education. Education is a foundational driver of development. It creates pathways to better health, economic growth, a sustainable environment, and peaceful democratic societies. In 2015, 75 million children and youth aged 3 to 18 years old were directly affected by conflict and crisis. Globally, girls are especially disadvantaged right now. 130 million girls are not in school worldwide, and millions more face barriers to staying in school. On September 14, 2018, USAID released the first ever US government strategy on international basic education. The goal of the strategy is to achieve a world where education system in partner countries enable all individuals to acquire the education and skills needed to be productive members of society. To accomplish this goal, the US government has two principal objectives. One is improve learning outcomes and expand access to quality basic education for all, particularly marginalized and vulnerable population. Then third one is global health. Since 1986, USAID's HIV/AIDS program has been on the forefront of global AIDS crisis. So they are working on HIV/AIDS, and I want to share some data. More than 13.3 million people are on life-saving antiretroviral treatment. So antiretroviral treatment they have given for more than 13.3 million people. Then 85% 6.5 million people received HIV testing and counseling. Then 11.2 million pregnant women received treatment and counseling. Then 6.4 million orphans and vulnerable children received care and support. And more than 250,000 healthcare workers have been trained to deliver HIV and other health services. So they are also working in India and they are helping uh, to our population to fight against HIV/AIDS. Then gender equality and women empowerment. So they are uh, covering more than 80 countries and creating awareness and programs for gender equality and to create a avenue for women for their self-respect and dignity. The next one is water and sanitation. As we know, water is most precious and everyday's need, isn't it? Globally, about 2.1 million people lack access to safe drinking water in their homes, and about 4.4 billion lack access to proper sanitation, putting them at risk of disease. So, keeping these things, they initiated some activities like promote sustainable access to safe drinking water and sanitation service, then encourage the sound management and protection of freshwater resources, then strengthening water sector governance, financing, and institutions. So it's their strategic objective 4. Then they are also working for crisis and conflict. So when conflict situation arises, US intervene and try to resolve the crisis and conflict. So how they are resolving? They are strengthening resilience by helping states and communities prepare for and mitigate the impacts of disasters, then providing life-saving humanitarian assistance to save lives and alternative sufferings, then provide emergency food assistance, then accelerate a rapid and durable recovery by supporting livelihoods, markets, and the sustainable provision of basic services, then promote peaceful political transitions by strengthening civil society, then invest in the protection and empowerment of women and girls. They are also working on human rights. When human rights are violated, they are intervening and they are uh, making sound towards a person's right. Then they are also working for to set up a good governance system by which the whole nation will build. Then human assistance, as I mentioned earlier, during conflict situation, when crisis appears, they intervene and they used to provide assistance and support, especially in disaster uh, time. Then they are working towards economic growth and trade, and that's why they are providing training support to all partner countries. Then you see our environment and climate are going to be changed, and they are noticing this and they are working for the global climate change. So this is all about the USAID. I just briefed you about USAID, and mm, they have other activities, and in India also it is functioning, and we are receiving help from USAID and very well-known organization. So to know details, please read some books on USAID. They have their own manual, And with that note, I want to conclude. Thank you.